To be honest, I'm doing a lot of power sales. Yeah, it's been really interesting. I've had a lot of drama. The power sales that I'm doing, it's a B lender and it's all investment properties. That's where I think the puck's going in 2026 is you're going to see a lot of investment properties come to market. And what's worse than trying to sell an investment property with tenants in it with a seller who's mad that you're selling the place?
Welcome to the Tom Storey Show with Steve Karrasch and Tom Storey, where we discuss everything real estate or whatever else is on our minds.
Thomas Clark Story, and I can't pronounce anything.
It's a strong name.
English.
It's a strong name. Welcome back to the
live in some
Stephen.
manor somewhere in England or something.
Cut.
Stephen,
No
let me
cuts,
start
we
the
go.
show. Let me start the show.
Okay.
Welcome back to episode 195 of the Tom Storey Show. Thank you for being here. This week we have a return guest, but this time he's coming back all on his own. Cortez, hold on, let me get this. Cortez Ranieri. I'm close. Okay, that was all right. Cortez, you've also confused me because just like Daryl and TK, you changed the name of your podcast.
I know.
Okay, so it's currently the Canadian Economy and Estates podcast, correct?
Yeah, you got it.
But it was the
Yeah.
Real Estate Homefront podcast.
It was the Homefront.
Why did
and
we
then
change the name? Why are we confusing me for my introductions?
It was more Brooke that wanted to do
Okay.
the rebrands. People love the rebrands.
Yeah.
I don't know a thing about branding, so I just kind of went along with it, and I thought it sounded kind of good. So
It does sound good. Also,
Yeah.
obviously, an active real estate agent. Gotta put that out there with Royal LePage in Oakville. What's going on, man? Happy New Year! I know it's kind of maybe too late to be saying that these days, but how are we feeling about 2026 so far?
Feeling pretty good so far. To be honest, I'm doing a lot of power sales.
Okay.
It's been really interesting, if I'm being honest with you.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of drama because the power sales that I'm doing, a lot of people think, power sales, it's going to be with a bank. But this side, it's a B lender. So I know a B lender really well. And it's all investment properties. That's where I think the puck's going in 2026 is you're going to see a lot of investment properties come to market. And what's worse than trying to sell an investment property with tenants in it with a seller who's mad that you're selling the place. So it has just been
Trifecta.
It's been crazy.
Trifecta of a great listing, right? What we all want.
And the lender, good friend of mine, just goes, you know what, we're just going to chip away at it. We'll figure it out, sort of thing. So that's what I've been doing. I was working all Christmas. The tenants were denying showings and I was on ChatGPT for 2 weeks straight asking it questions because if I hired a lawyer to help me, it would have cost me an arm and a leg. But it's been, I have an offer on one of them, hoping to get that one across the finish line. But people hear power sale. And fair enough to anybody, they think I'm going to get a screaming deal. So some of the offers I've seen wouldn't even cover the first loan on the property. So there's 2 loans on these properties for people that don't know. Usually a B lender will lend against a house if it has the appraisal to kind of make up the equity and the delta for it. So I've been diving into that a little bit different. I usually help, first time home buyers or upsizers, but I'm enjoying the process.
And so you said you have a few of these. So you got 2 of these on the market right now that you're trying to deal with, and this is all from one private lender that obviously you have a connection with that's giving you these to try to sell them.
Yeah, exactly. I actually have 4 on right now, and I'm putting up 3 more. So it's taking
all from the same person, or this is different.
All from the same lender. Yeah. So a lot of the time, though, so people don't kind of think that things are terrible. A lot of people will collateralize other properties that they have. So it's like whatever sells first, we take the other one off. So there's a portfolio. There's 4 properties on. There's 1 in Thunder Bay that I have nothing to do with. And there's 3 here. So it's kind of like whatever 2 sell first, the other 2 will come off. And that's the collateral that's going to pay back the actual lenders on the property and then pay out the interest owed, any sort of, expenses to lawyers or any sort of penalties. That's kind of where it all goes. But it's a very complicated process, no doubt.
And are these are houses that are like split up and rented out, or are these condos? Like what type of property is this?
Yeah, they're actually all freehold houses for the most part. One of them is like has 4 different units. It's really a triplex, but they added another unit downstairs. But 2 of them are like new build homes, and one of them, interestingly enough, is very illegal. It has separate bedrooms that are rented out. And then 2 more bedrooms in the basement. There's a bedroom on the main floor. And this is like a, how do I say, like a new build sort of area. It is like a two-car garage, probably 3,500 square foot house, like a family home. And 7 people are renting out kind of bedrooms. It's almost like a student housing, but it's zoned single family. It's not zoned for this type of.
There's no way the city thinks that many people live there. No,
there's no way. I think the city came by because there was some sketchy wiring done in the basement to kind of make another unit. I don't know. And what do they do, right? Like we scream and we cry that we need more housing and more rooms. Does the city go in and be the bad guy and shut it down? Where do all these people go? I don't have the answers to those questions, but it's something that I think about for sure.
Such for the tenants too, right? Like I get they should be allowing showings if they know what the rules are, but it's like, well, I rented a place. It's not my fault the landlord didn't make the payments, and now I got to deal with this crap because somebody else, right?
Imagine me being the real estate agent showing up to their house, knocking on their door and saying, hey, here's my business card. So, I'm not just some scammer, but your landlord is not paying the mortgage anymore. And now I have to sell this place. Are you willing to give me a key right now? And are you willing for me to put a for sale sign out front? It was a fun couple days for sure. But most people, they were really nice. But what the tenants were being told from their landlord and what the reality of the situation was very different. So I really had to come up with some really good text, thanks to ChatGPT, helping me explain to them that just because they don't want showings doesn't mean that they can deny them.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Well, what a way to start the year.
That right now myself, because we just got our first forced entry order on a foreclosure. First one I've ever had where the people were so difficult to deal with that the lawyer went back to the courts and locks have been changed and we now have access. So it's very, very interesting. We're dealing with a few right now. Got an offer on one. Can I just make the announcement here? There's no deals on foreclosures on, what do you guys call them? Power of sales. Which is different. But there's no deals there. Like the property will come down to a certain amount of which usually, like our process is the property comes down so low that by the time it goes to court, there's a bidding war at court and it never actually sells for the cheap price. But we have to go back to court, right?
Yeah,
that
we
gives
don't
it a
have
bit of
that.
an opportunity. I will say, I noticed you said, so you're dealing with the second mortgages?
Yeah. So I'm dealing with the second one. So the lender on it, the second position has to contact the first position, make sure there's enough equity. And then he kind of lets me know what we could take and what it could sell for. But then also I need vacant possession. So how am I going to force vacant possession? I don't know. I haven't crossed that road yet, but maybe you guys can have me on next year and I can explain how this all turned out.
For us, when we go back to court with the offers and the judge reviews the offers and then grants one of them, the judge's court order will circumvent anything or trump anything to do with tenancy laws or anything. So if the buyer says, I'm moving in, the judge can say, okay, the tenant needs to be out in X amount of days, right? They don't have to do the 3 months or 4 months or whatever we have here. But I will share with you from my experience, anything that's being foreclosed on right now that I'm seeing, if you're lucky, the equity in the home right now might help out the first mortgage. But I've never seen seconds and thirds until 2025 on properties. Like I've never pulled a title before and saw a second mortgage until last year. It's the first time ever. But now all of our foreclosures that we've seen have had, except for 1-2 years ago, have had seconds or thirds on them. And those people don't stand a chance of getting their money back because there's most of the time, the amount owed is actually what the property's worth. So not only does the first have to take a hit because they get their money back, but they then have to pay their lawyers and us and whatever expenses they have. So plus accrued interest or whatever. So the first mortgage is actually taking a little bit of a hit as well. So but I will tell you, they've all been owner occupied. Every single one of them has been owner occupied.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, which is a real shift from when we did them after the great financial crisis, because when we were doing them back then, everybody left, right? So you would get the notice that you're being foreclosed on, and you're like, you know what? I don't know what my payment was back then, but it wasn't that bad. Can't make my payments. I can just go find a basement suite down the road, go rent that for $600 a month, and I'm just going to move on with my life. So they were all vacant. Now housing is so expensive. I'm even seeing, here's what I think is happening. I'm not sure if they're paying, like we're foreclosing. Our client is the first on all of them, right? So the second and the third don't stand a chance. So that means they're not paying the first mortgage, let alone the second and the third.
Oh, well, way behind.
And then they also have there are freehold properties that have basement rentals in them. So are they collecting that basement rent and then also not paying? Like, are they? You know what you get what I'm getting at? Like, are they collecting from the tenants? Like, if I got that notice, Cortez, you come to me and you're like, hey, knocking on the door, just want to let you know this unit's being foreclosed on. It's nothing you've done wrong. If I'm the tenant, first thing I'm doing is never paying my rent.
Not paying the rent. Yeah.
I'm not helping out a guy that's going to get me evicted. Right? Like,
for sure.
Oh, has that become an issue? Are the tenants still paying the rent on all these?
You know what? I'm not 100% sure. The first position I still think is getting paid. It's not that these people weren't actually paying the second position. It was that the mortgage matured. So so it was a lender. Usually that's what it is, right? It's kind of like, that's what private lending, at least in Ontario, it's like a very short term, 1 year, we'll give you money for a year. It expires here. You got to pay us back, or you got to find another way to make the money.
Right.
And actually one of the owners called me and out of the blue, because I left a notice on one of her properties, and she called me and said, my sister put my house as collateral. I signed off on it. I shouldn't have done it. Just basically, pleading to me. And I just said, look, every waking hour, you and your sister should figure out a way to pay the second mortgage back, because it's not going away. Like that's the best advice I can give you. I'm not trying to be evil. I'm just working in what my client and the investors want to do and what you signed up for. And I hate to sound so blunt, but it's just the honest truth, right? Like, if you take on debt and it comes due, you have to pay it back. We can't just pretend like it's going to go away. So I don't know what's happening on the back end. I don't know if they plan on buying it out, but also if I do sell these and say it goes pending and there's a 3-month closing, if the seller can find a way to pay back that second mortgage, then the pending sale is erased and they can keep their house. So the person who bought the property is actually kind of like, their deposit sits there, they stop looking, and then, 3 months goes by, and the day before they're going to close on it, they can pay it out and they can be okay.
Sounds like you don't want to necessarily become the power of sales specialist. It sounds like a bunch of headaches when you can just work with a family looking to sell their house instead. No?
Yeah, with the nice golden retriever at home, you know what I mean? It's probably an easier route to go down, but I don't know. I find it interesting. I find it fun. I think it's a good challenge when, you kind of feel like, not that I'm bored with real estate, but you do the same thing every single day and you kind of say the same thing over and over again, and to kind of like challenge yourself and push yourself. I do find it interesting.
I had thought that power of sales were going to be a bigger conversation in 2026 than even last year, because of the lagging indicator type of how this all happens, right? Like, it didn't just magically happen one day. These were issues going on last year that are now going to come to the market as power of sales in 2026. It sounds like you're both, like, I'm not directly dealing with it. We will do a few maybe with a connection from the bank. But it's not something that's super active in my business. But it sounds like between the two of you, we got, 10 foreclosures, power of sales to start 2026. Yeah, 2 but you had 7 on the market, or like, there's a bunch, right? So it's interesting.
I'll have 7, maybe more, right? Like he's just ready. He just so I'll just wake up to an email being like, "Can you get these 3 up?" And okay, let's do it.
And they're all tenanted. None are owner occupied.
Most are tenanted. No, not a lot of owner occupied. A lot of people, when things are good, the risk and the call option looks like it's a really good idea, right? You want to borrow against the house. Let me buy more real estate. I made more money than I ever thought. And the trade starts to go against you. And I think we'll see that unwinding happen more and more this year.
Mm-hmm. One of the things I wanted to ask you about, Cortez, is the 2025 numbers are official. I think we did 62,000 sales, which is our lowest number since the year 2000. So 25 years, literally lowest sales volume we've had in 25 years. Obviously, our population is a lot more today than it was then. So people are not making purchase and sale decisions, or they're trying to sell, but not being able to get it done. When we literally backtrack 13 minutes ago before we got into the power of sales, I'm like, how are you feeling so far about this year? And it's like, oh, it seems like a pretty good start. It's like, that was also what we were saying at the beginning of 2025. And then everything just got shifted. So the question I'm getting to here is, every year has a thing, right? Last year was obviously the trade war. We start 2026, we've got the Venezuela thing going on. So that's number one. But then coming up, are we just going to be talking about Kuzma for the rest of this year? Is that going to be the thing that just derails 2026 where we don't renew it? And then is that I know me and Steve really spend most of our time just drilled in on real estate and what's happening in the markets. Yeah. I know you're more on the macro side of the economy and everything that's going on. What's the thing this year that's going to screw everything up for everybody, or that we can't stop talking about?
This episode of the Tom Storey Show is brought to you by Realty Ninja. Hey, real estate agents, I bet you didn't get into the real estate industry to try to become a web developer. Realty Ninja will help you build a beautiful website for your business without becoming all techie, because me and Steve are certainly not techie. They'll set up your entire site for you, they'll migrate the content from your current site, and they'll take care of all the back end, switching the domains, all the things that you don't want to do, they'll take care of for you. Their team of in-house designers will make your new site match your current brand and help you stand out from your competitors. Best of all, Realty Ninja offers a free unlimited trial that lets you build out your website, and they do not charge you until you're ready to launch. That's right, they're so confident in their product and that you're gonna love the website that you build with them. They will not charge you until it's ready to launch. They don't even take your credit card details. Listeners of the Tom Storey Show will not only get an unlimited trial before you launch, but if you go to realtyninja.com/Tom, you will get 20% off your first year after you launch. A beautiful, functional, and professional website is absolutely a must in today's real estate landscape, and Realty Ninja delivers. So go to realtyninja.com/Tom for 20% off your first year. That's realtyninja.com/Tom. And now back to the podcast.
Yeah, I think there's a few, it's hard for me to point to one sort of bullish indicator where it's this is going to save the housing market, other than the government basically needs to, because we've built this house of cards economy on real estate. If you look at since 2021, I think that we've really underestimated the investor class. I think we really didn't think of how many people pulled out money on their primary residence and went and bought more real estate, because Canada doesn't have, you can invest in Nvidia, you can invest in Tesla if you wanted to, but in Canada, people loved real estate for a long time, and it was the right bet. I just think now that rates are probably going to stay at 4%. Yeah. I don't see incomes catching up with house prices, and we just had that population decline, which was kind of a big eye opener. Rents continue to fall, which means investors are less likely to want to jump in the market because their pro formas aren't making sense with rates higher than what they were and rents coming down. So I think this year, I don't think it's going to be some sort of crazy 2008 financial crisis, but I do see that sellers, if they think things are going to get better, at least in the GTA, in the area that I work in, I think that based off the inventory levels that we're carrying over from last year, I don't see this whole, the only thing when I ask people, what do you think is going to be the driver? They just say the pent up demand. And I don't really see that as an indicator. How do you measure pent up demand? Is it just anecdotal because you're talking to people? But you can measure immigration numbers. You can measure interest rates. You can even measure sentiment out there, which is not great. Even my dad, who sold his house at the peak, he asked me about the real estate market, and he even said, it's unfair for young people to try and get into the market. So who are these older people going to be selling these, $1.2 million, $1.7 million homes to? And that's a big question that as sellers do need to ask themselves is it going to get better? And when is that going to happen? And I don't think that's going to be 2026.
I don't think so either. It's, drawing that comparison, at least to the 1989 crash that we saw, and everyone likes to talk about the fact that, like, I think it didn't take till 2002 for average price to actually match the 89 price. So it was a long time. And then if you build in the like real numbers, inflation adjusted numbers, it's even further out. But right now, like if this is that, and I don't know if it is, but 2026 would put us in 1993 right now. If 2021 or 2022, was 1989, we're currently in 1993. And from what the numbers, and I look back at the archives, is it looks like at least what happened there is it took 2 more years for things to bottom out. And the last 2 years of declines weren't actually that big. Like most happened early, as it probably will see in this. But there was still like a little bit more pain in those last 2 years, which would then take us to 1995, which then today would take us till 2028. Seems to be the first that I've, like generally conversations, people think like, oh, maybe not that prices skyrocket then, but maybe it stops going down and things start ticking a little bit the other direction, right?
Yeah.
I'd be curious to know how similar you think this is to that, because that's all we really have. I know, Steve, you're Vancouver, you had like a 1980s, early 80s crash that was different than what we had in the late 80s, but at least here in the GTA, this is all we really have to compare it to. Do you think this is like that?
Yeah. You know, I am leaning a little bit more bearish. Like I do think that, and when I talk about the market, I talk about my specific market in the GTA, which had a massive run up. Like when rates dropped, Benjamin Tal said this, is that we borrowed from the future. We borrowed our future gains for today. And the problem is that people think, and I still talk to people today and they just say, well, it just can't go down. Like that's always the sentiment, is like, it just can't go down anymore. And I think when you look back at history, you can be surprised. And a big thing I always look at is just because I'm a millennial, I'm 32, and the amount of people I know who don't own a home, but work hard, they have good jobs, they make good money, they make more than the median does on paper, but they still just can't get into the market. It really just tells me that, you know, who is going to be buying these homes next? And more sales always happen as prices come down, right?
Sure.
Like as you see prices come down, I had it this year where people were sidelined and then all of a sudden they could afford that detached house and they jumped on it. They were like, okay, perfect. The one thing that really I look at my business is that the 5-year rate, right? Like Tom and Steve, you guys can talk to this. Every 5 years, I really felt like people were upsizing or their family grew. And if you bought 5 years ago, at least, you know, in Hamilton, Oakville, Burlington, you are negative equity. Like, you know, you could be 200 negative equity. So are you moving? I don't think so. I think that cohort of people is probably going to stay in place for at least the foreseeable future. Unless it makes sense, like unless the numbers make sense to move up. But people don't like to sell at a loss. So I don't know, Steve, I see you pondering over there. Do you have
well, I don't think 5-year.
It depends on the market though. Like Cortez, the markets he's talking about.
For sure.
Like condo into townhouse into detached has kind of always been that kind of like 5-year turnaround. For younger people, at least the people that I work with, like I would get calls, okay, let's sell the condo, let's move up to the townhouse, and then let's move up again. And, you know, if people who bought in 2021, you know, we're coming up on that 5 years, it's just not happening. Like there's just no way. I look at those numbers and I'm like, you know, you're just so far off what you bought for, even after 5 years of, you know, inflation and pay down, you're still just not there.
It stings the most too when that's the first purchase, because it's not like you own something before that you made a ton of money on. Like for me right now, I know my house is worth less than I paid for it. And it kind of sucks, but it's like, come on, man. Like all the other pieces of real estate I own made me so much money that in the grand scheme of things, I'm still way ahead in life in this position because of that. But it's like, if I saved up for my first place and 5 years later, it's worth $100,000 less. It's not like I had the one before that made me $200,000 and I'm like, oh, whatever. Like that hurts even harder when you don't have the previous gains kind of leading up to it, right?
100%. And I do think that the government has to pivot their focus. And I think Carney, wants to pivot his focus on other things in real estate because of this trade war that we're facing. Like, how do we create an abundance of jobs? And when I dive into it, it's like, okay, there is pipelines, but there's also the critical minerals aspect, cobalt, lithium, that Canada has a lot of that you could start to mine. But then we run into this issue in Canada where we just love red tape. We just love, in a sense, I hate to use the word because people get upset, but it's like virtue signaling, but it puts us behind the 8 ball so much more to other countries. Like, if you could create more high paying jobs through what Canada is so rich in, which is natural resources, and Rich Diaz is the guy to talk to this about, but you could have a lot of high paying jobs for a lot of people where we could increase that GDP. And I think you could easily get a deal with Trump because he wants to pivot away from China. So if you were to give Trump access or some investment into investing into these, critical mineral sites that would create Canadian jobs, we could have a trade deal done pretty easily. But the news and the divide and the hatred for Trump and the political suicide that could create, I just can't see it happening, unfortunately. But I do hope it does, because if you put the feelings aside, it makes sense.
What about just in our world of real estate? And you brought up Rich, who we had on our show recently. I know you've interviewed him a few times. And Rich is very clear in his thought that real estate is non-productive. There's nothing that we do that, and I get that word productive means different things to different people, but like in his view, but there's a lot of people now that won't have jobs in construction because nothing's being built. Are creating those jobs not some level of productivity for our country? And then where I'm taking this question is, there was kind of like these little reports that came out that kind of slid under the radar. They came out in like right near Christmas that our housing minister is looking at the foreign buyer ban and considering opening it up for new construction properties. I'd be curious to get your take on that, because there's a lot of people in whether it's plumbing or construction or just everything involved with the building of these buildings, which is, I mean, like, once they're wrapped up this year, there's nothing happening. There's nothing to do for 5. Where are those people going to go get the jobs next? I honestly don't know the answer.
Buying a home is a big deal, so don't let your home inspection cause you more stress. For over 45 years, Carson Dunlop has helped buyers across Canada understand the homes that they are buying with detailed, calm, clear, client-first inspections. Carson Dunlop inspectors don't just point out problems, they explain what really matters in a way that will protect you in your home purchase. If you want confidence in your home inspection, top agents and home buyers trust Carson Dunlop. So to check out where they service and to book your inspection, go to carsondunlop.com right now.
Yeah, I think it's the first part of your question is good. I think that it does create productivity because it's creating jobs and creating income tax, and that does help the gross domestic product of the country. I think where Rich is saying it doesn't create productivity is when you have hundreds of thousands of dollars and you go buy a single family home and you take that away from a family and you just rent it out. Right. I can understand that argument. Like, there's not much, other than the real estate agent getting paid one time and the lawyer getting paid or the mortgage broker. It's kind of a one-time thing versus if you created another tech company or you really allowed another foreign company to come in here. That's kind of my first part of the question. I think if we're focusing on building and creating jobs, then what the government could do is get rid of red tape and relinquish how much tax they charge on homes. Like 30% goes to taxes. But, the government tries to say things like, well, we need that money for this program, that program, roads, whatever, which, has some truth to it. But governments are the worst capital allocators of money. Like, if they ran your household, you would fire them immediately. You would say, there's no way you're running my household. Like, you're doing a horrific job. It's because they waste money. It's just the truth. And there's fraud. And we've seen it in many situations.
You guys opening a daycare soon in Oakville?
I know. I was gonna say there's no daycare money available to me, but if there was, I wouldn't be on this show. The second part to your question, I think, is just interesting because you had Trump just ban single family homes.
I was going to bring that up. Can he do that? Like, that's actually a thing now. Like, he can ban institutional investors.
One thing might not love about Trump, there's many things you might not love about him, but does he get things done? Like, does he move at the pace that Carney promised he would move at? Yes. Like, he does things that, he just throws stuff against the wall and he sees what happens. Like, that's one thing. If you're young and you see that in a leader where you want change, you are attracted to that. I'm not saying every young person is, but a lot of young people that I talk to, they go, I don't agree with everything, but what I like is that if you are someone who is like, I don't know how much of a difference it's going to make. I have to dive into the numbers. But if you're a young person and you heard your president or prime minister say, I'm going to ban foreign or even corporate buyers from coming in and buying these homes from you guys, you would be excited about that. You would say, okay, that's one policy. How do we keep this running and how do we keep this going? And, just a side note, Brookfield owns 40,000 units across Canada. So I don't think we're going to see that anytime soon. But for the foreign investor part of it, I don't know. Do you think that, Steve, and you guys can talk this, do you think that they're going to run into a market where prices are falling, rents are falling, there's so much red tape, there's a ton of taxes? When I saw that headline and people are scared, they're texting me, the market's going to go back up. I'm sorry, I just don't see that as a reality.
No, I think banning the foreign buyers in 2023 was given too much credit because they did it at the same time that everything else was changing and the market was adjusting and rates were going up, right? And I think the thought of that, if we allow them to come back, even if it's only to buy new construction, does that get projects that have sold 20% to 70% sold? Because everything we've ever been told is like, 5 to 7%, maybe on the high end, was foreign buyers.
Yeah,
so it's like,
sure.
and I get it, right? It's like what's happening now is the developers are going to the housing minister and saying, please do something. Give us a little bit of a lifeline. Maybe these foreign buyers haven't been paying attention and they're the only ones that are going to spend $1,500 a square foot on this downtown condo that we can't sell to anybody else. Like, give us something to work with here. That's all I can think is going on, right? So is it going to make a difference?
No, I don't think so. I think it's just, what do they call it? I mean, Steve, you'd probably know this better than me, but when I dove into it more on people who actually do real reporting, not the CBC, it was snow washing. Like it was so easy to launder money into Canada that they would buy these homes under corporate names. No one would look into it. And they'd buy, pre-construction and they just let the money sit there. There was people going into Vancouver casinos with cocky bags full of money. I know we're getting a bit sidetracked here, but I just don't see how allowing people to come back here and maybe invest would prop up the market, especially when I know that China's really, they really won't allow people to pull out the amount of money that they're pulling out. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't see that as a catalyst. I think if you want to get this market going again, you would need rates to drop to near zero. And at that point, we would be in economic turmoil.
Yeah, then we just go through the same shit.
Those Chinese restrictions, those Chinese restrictions were in for a long time, because I remember when China put in the restrictions about how much money you could take out, and then how all of the new to Canada Chinese folks were working on, I think it was $50,000 a year you were allowed to take out. So it was like each family member needs this much money and they need to transfer it at this time of the year to try and get it out, because guess what? They don't like their government either. Nobody likes their government wherever they are.
Yeah.
Right? I know. It's the way it is. So can I make a few comments here? Because I've been trying my best not to talk over people lately.
Go on. So I'll be quiet. Go for it.
I made some points. So your first point from earlier on, pent-up demand. I am with you on that. I don't think it's there. The reason I don't think it's there is because I survey my clients, my entire database at the beginning of every single year. This year, I got the highest response rate ever. And all but 4 of my responses said, I'm not doing nothing. I'm staying put. Everybody wants to stay put. I don't know where this pent-up demand would come from. I do have buyers reaching out to me saying, I want to become a homeowner, which I think is great. But I don't buy the pent-up demand thing one bit. On immigration and foreign buyers in particular, the part that everybody's forgetting right now is the exact opposite side of the coin of where they were. For the last 10 years under Trudeau, we were talking about immigration and how immigration is, but there's always more people coming. There's always more people coming. And everybody thought that was never going to end. And it ramped up and ramped up and it ramped up and it ended. And now we're going the other way. that tap can be turned on again as soon as the government likes. They proved that they could turn it on from 200,000 or from zero in 2020 to 1.2 million people the next year for 4 years straight. So they can turn that tap on should they decide. So I wouldn't get on this whole idea of there's too much going back the other way. Once we get back to, just like house prices, once we get back to averages of where we probably should have been in the first place, I think that immigration tap's going to turn right back on.
Is that not the same thing, Steve, as Cortez said?
Suicide? Sorry, go ahead, Tom.
No. I was going to say, we were talking about Ben Tal said we stole sales from the future.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
same thing with immigration. It's just like we did way too much and now it's going to be nothing. And if you average it out over those years, it'll still be a lot. It's just like we work in the extremes.
It's not bad.
I think it would be
though.
I do think it would be though, because if you look at all these polls, like even Liberal and NDP voters, for the most part, most people are saying immigration is too high. And again, when I say this, I don't mean any offense to the immigrants. I mean it's an offense to the federal government who put too many people here with not enough housing. And it doesn't just affect housing; it affects especially hospital wait times. I mean, wow, you look at those. Like if you were hurt right now, even thinking about going to a hospital would be daunting, but that's just, I think it would be political suicide. That's just my
I don't think it would. And the reason for that is I don't think they announce it. They just do it because that's what they did last time. They didn't announce that we're going to increase, 5 times our PRs or whatever the heck they did. Right. So I don't think they would announce it. As far as government spending goes, I saw a really interesting TED talk, believe it or not, on government spending and how government spending actually is a myth that it hurts the homeowners or just citizens, because the argument was every time the government spends, household net worth, I guess, compared to GDP and all this stuff, household increases about 4 to 5x what the government spending is. So household net worth increases 4 to 5x. But then later on in the talk, as any good TED Talk would do, they get to the fact that unfortunately, it's less than 30% of the people that are seeing that. And then the bottom 65 or 70% are, exactly. It's the rich people. So his thing was like, government spending isn't bad. It's the ability for the rich people to buy more rich stuff and own 100%. Assets and guess who those people are? They're the politicians, right? So that's one thing. I got a couple more here. Sorry, I'm going to try and cruise through them. I just want to touch on this Venezuela thing real quick. I think it's absolutely insane that a country would go into another country and just steal their leader. I'm going to say that's probably not a good precedent to set moving forward. However, let's try.
People there seem happy.
Yeah.
Not only do people there seem happy, but what's the other option that the U.S. would normally do? Go start a 20-year war and blow up the country for the next 20 years and have them hate your country? So it's like, is this a better option? I mean, can you imagine if in whatever year they decided, either 91 or 2003, both times they went into Iraq, if they just went and picked up Saddam and went, hey, Saddam, you're coming with us. Probably would have been a lot better situation, right? Although
I agree.
I mean, technically, don't get me started on Saddam. He was probably the best leader in the area at the time. So that's that. Now I want to talk maybe one more thing. I'll save the other one. Red tape you mentioned. I want to give an example of red tape and the issues that we have. So I spent New Year's, Cortez, in Tucson, Arizona. In Tucson, there's a place called Sabino Canyon. It's absolutely beautiful. It's where the natural river comes down through the mountains. I've never seen anything like it. Maybe I'll try and insert some footage here. In Sabino Canyon, there's a road that goes up the canyon. So there's a river that comes down, and then there's this little one-lane road that goes all the way up, and trams take people up to the top. They drop them off. Some people take the tram down, whatever, but it was the most beautiful thing ever, and it's packed with people going for hikes and enjoying nature. If we tried to build Sabino Canyon today, there is no chance that anybody would let you go up a natural canyon with a water source in the desert and build a road that crosses it 6 times or whatever. But the amount of money that Sabino Canyon brings in, and culture and exercise into the community far outweighs the fact that they have 100 years ago built this road that went up, right? And now it's maintained, and like they actually tell you this would never be built today. If they didn't start building this in the 1920s, they never would have built it. So much of Canada is the same, and we're seeing that, right? I go up every year to a little resort in outside in the interior of BC, and like you could not build half of that stuff now because you would have to do a study on the effects on the lake and all this different stuff, right? Like you can't do any of that. That goes all the way through everything. If we don't allow any progress because we're worried about what owl lives in what tree, nothing happens. And then we're all super happy that apparently there's an owl that we've never seen, right? Like it is crazy. And that's an example of red tape. So you have this place that is amazing. Everyone enjoys it. Is there an impact on the natural landscape? Sure. But guess who else is natural in the landscape? Human beings. And they're going to want to use it and make it better and more enjoyable. And I would argue that again, you couldn't build it today. But the fact that it was built before red tape is a very good thing. Now, they did have massive pollution in that area in the 1950s because people didn't know what the heck they were doing. But once they realized maybe we should get all the cars and the garbage and all this stuff and only have electric trams run up the canyon, it became an amazing, beautiful place to be. So that's an example of these things where if we can cut this red tape, we can actually do good things. The only problem with that is you're going to have some sort of bad actors if you do that on a mass scale on things like housing. So I think that's my rant. I have one more thing about casinos and money laundering, but maybe I'll say that.
Oh yeah, I'd love. I'd love.
You want to know? Okay. I will tell
you.
you something that's going on here very quietly in BC right now, in regards to the casinos, and I believe in my conspiracy mindset, in regards to the Indigenous land claims, we are having casinos being sold off to Indigenous groups. Kind of in the news, kind of quietly. And so that's the American model of let them make money not from our tax dollars, and they're going to shut the heck up and be happy because they're getting a whole ton of money. That's happening. River Rock is now sold, the one in Burnaby or Coquitlam.
Who were they owned by previously?
Great Canadian Casinos.
Okay.
Whoever owns whichever casinos and however they're licensed.
So why do they want them to shut up though? Like so they can build pipelines through their land? Is that the idea, or
maybe a little bit of that? Maybe. Well, let's face what the land claim is here in BC. The reality of the land claim is it's pay us, right? It's not we want the land back. It's we want to be paid forever for whatever reason, which apparently reconciliation, which is in my estimation you're never going to fix that ever. There's no reconciliation. There's no end goal, so there's no nothing. But it's like, how can we funnel enough money to these people that they don't become a problem anymore? Right? I think that's kind of the trajectory that things have been taken. So also, what's going to happen to money laundering once the Indigenous groups own the casinos, of which are they held to the same laws? Are they exempt from the laws like they are on the reservation lands? Right? Like, who knows what's going to happen? I just think it's very strange that these casinos have been now starting to be sold off to Indigenous groups.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, well, exactly. There's a whole lot of stuff going on.
I follow a lot of stuff, yeah.
We talked about last week how if you only watch the CBC, you don't know what's going on in Minnesota, right? So a lot of this stuff is kept super quiet because the super quiet stuff is probably the stuff of, what's going on over there? Don't worry about that. And there's an announcement. Oh yeah, they're going to say, hey, River Rock Casino was bought by an Indigenous band, and they're going to go through there and they're going to, make it celebrate the culture of the Indigenous people, which is all great. And personally, I would love I like the idea of putting casinos on, say reservations, and then letting those folks run those and not siphoning off all the tax dollars. I actually really like that idea. It's happening. So it's an interesting thing.
You want them to prosper. I agree. I think that you do want the Indigenous people to prosper. It's just my understanding of it, and maybe someone correct me in the comments, is that Trudeau got rid of how they audited the money when it went to the reserves. So you don't exactly
money.
Yeah. So if you are getting all this money, you have more money, and your standard of living is declining on the reserve. I mean, 1 + 1 = 2. Somebody's taking that money and using it for themselves rather than allowing it for the benefit of the people to prosper. And that's kind of what I think about the Canadian economy, is that, like you said, there's so much red tape to the point that we're not allowing people to prosper. Like you brought up Trump going into Venezuela. He had many ideas, but now he's bringing all this crude oil back. And one flight away, you're at Alberta. You're very close. We should be the people supplying. And I know we do supply the US, but are we going to supply them on a lesser level because we become an unreliable trading partner? Much of it to do with the news spewing, a lot of hate. And I'm not saying I agree with everything that Trump does, but the divide that we have is not healthy for our economy. We have to focus on, how do we really get a deal for people to begin working again? Make sure they have job security. And this goes back to the real estate market too, right? Like if people feel secure in their jobs and they're making good money, then, real estate prices are going to be stable. But especially Ontario, that's bordered to the US, is where it really worries me, because it's, prices are so high. If you look at other markets, like I know Quebec and stuff like that, they're having great years and they're actually increasing. Newfoundland as well, you start to see those markets kind of peaking up. But what I always said is that the national average this year will fall because British Columbia and Ontario's prices will fall, and they are the highest priced real estate in the country. And if that falls, 2%, and say Quebec goes up 4%, well, overall it's going to fall because, it's a bigger delta in Ontario than it is in
getting back to the foreign buyer thing, like if you are a Chinese money launderer, apparently it's the only people apparently that bought coming from China. For some reason, if you read the comments. If you are those people, do you care if your property that you're buying is in Vancouver, or are you going to, these other areas? Like, they're good. They don't mind going to Montreal. You want to go to Montreal? Like, if I'm trying to clean money, do I care where my real estate is? Right? Like, I think it's a bit of a joke, but it's...
Well, I think when you guys had the ban in 2016, they all came to Oakville and Toronto, right, Tom? Like in 2017.
Yeah, when it first happened in Vancouver.
When it first happened. And then as soon as they put the 20... I just got into the business, I remember. And I remember as soon as they turned the tap on the foreign buyer tax in the GTA, it was like, where'd everybody go? They were gone. Prices fell like overnight. It was crazy.
And they have to be
everything.
Money launderers, right? Like flying in and out of Phoenix a couple weeks back. Is every Canadian that's coming down there to enjoy their winter home a money launderer? Or do they just want to go, that's where I want to spend part of the time of my year, right? Like, it is kind of silly to think that everybody coming to us is a money launderer, but us going to Palm Springs is, just trying to get away from the snow.
You know what I didn't even consider when we were talking about the lifting the foreign buyer ban? That's the ban. The tax still exists.
Oh yeah, it's not happening.
So it's like
in BC. You're not. Yeah.
So it's like in Ontario. I believe we still have it. It's not 25%. We haven't talked about it in so long because it hasn't mattered. But even if you lift it, it's like, okay, now you're allowed to buy this overpriced downtown pre-construction condo. And then also we're allowing you, but there's still a 25% tax on top of it as well. Like how that's going to make any difference, I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good point, Tom. A really good point.
One of the things I want to bring up with both of you guys, because I know obviously, you're dealing with power sales and foreclosures, but I think the three of us do collectively work with a ton of first-time home buyers as well. CMHC said that in 2025, 42% of every transaction that took place across Canada was a first-time home buyer. On January the 22nd, myself and Steve are doing a first-time home buyer webinar on Zoom, and you can sign up right now in the link in the description. We're capped at 300 registrations, but we'd love for you to be there. We're going to walk through everything we know, the playbook for first-time home buyers who successfully enter the market in 2026. Steve and myself collectively have sold over 1,000 properties all across Canada, and we're going to show you what works, what doesn't work, and where we don't want you to make mistakes. January the 22nd at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 4 p.m. Pacific. We hope to see you there. And so interesting, right? So like they obviously are like they're so important to the market because they'll buy up that low end stuff, right? And you're talking, Cortez, of like, who buys the next thing if they can't sell the thing that they have? And it kind of just like moves its way up. The one thing that I've really been looking at recently is like, if you go, everyone's going to look at peak numbers till today and show you how much they've fallen. And I get it. It makes for a good graph. But if you actually look at true affordability in the last 2 years, from 2023 till now, for average sale price and interest rates, affordability has actually gotten like better. Like it's
no way better.
Sure. There's no way
100%.
it's like cheap or, you know, what people maybe think affordable means, but there's actually been a real difference, because even from that peak numbers, it's like, yeah, the sale prices dropped, but the interest rates went up. So if you needed a mortgage, it wasn't that much different. But in the last 2 years, there's actually been a pretty meaningful change, not only on what you're getting stress tested at because the rates have come down, but your average sale price has dropped pretty significantly for most property types in those last 2 years. So I guess I'm just curious, is this something that your first-time homebuyers are aware of? Do they know there's actually been a change in the true cost of owning properties? Because the peak numbers, what everyone focuses on, I'm more focused on the last 2 years of like, that's actually a meaningful difference. It's going to cost you maybe $1,000 less per month to own the same property now than it did 2 years ago at a 5.5 to 6% rate and a sale price that was 10% higher. So you think first-time home buyers are finally looking at 2026 like, oh, okay, it's actually, maybe I can afford it now.
For sure. And I think that when I talk to a lot of people, that is what they're saying. They're saying that, you know, when I was looking at this house 3 years ago, it was way higher in price. But it's not only just like the purchasing of a house today, it's like the relaxation that they get, that they can have a home inspection, that they can sleep on it, that they can see, like in the peak, you know, you're going in, removing the home inspection, which I always hated, removing financing, which I always had to drill down on them, just being like, are you sure everything is good? Can I talk to your broker? But now it's so relaxing that they can, you know, go in at an offer $100,000 under asking, and we can go back and forth. It's been on for 3 months, and then the home inspector can come in, and then if there's any issues, they can then negotiate more, or they can just plan to take it on themselves because they're happy with the purchase price that they got. I think that that's what I'm seeing is a lot of first-time home buyers they're kind of asking that question always, is it a good time to buy? And nobody knows. It's just a better time to buy than it was 2 years ago. That's what I always tell them. And I said, you know, if you're buying this place because you're trying to hit some home run that your parents hit, it's probably never going to happen. But if you're buying it to build equity, to make memories, you know, to work as a partnership with your partner on splitting bills, and maybe you're doing the bathroom or something, it's a really fun thing to do with somebody. Like, it's an amazing experience. It tests your relationship. You know, try moving with somebody and then see if, or you know, they always say go on vacation, but try moving with somebody and then seeing how stable your relationship is. It truly is like a great thing to do with somebody. So I'm seeing a lot of first-time buyers kind of getting that pre-approval and getting more excited as prices comes down. And that is truly what excites me, because I really like working with families and not investors.
You know what I've noticed
for an entire month, Cortez, in my basement bedroom with my entire family of 4 sleeping in the same room, doing a renovation. We're out of it now, thankfully, but we did it. And let me tell you, that is, you're right. You test the limits of your family in a situation like that.
Yeah, like you guys have kids, and I can't wait to have kids myself. So I think that's awesome. Like your kids are older, and you guys can be in a basement together. At least you'll know, regardless of money, you'll always be happy together.
Do you guys still like each other after living in your basement?
You mean
you guys still
Cortez,
talk?
or me and
Do the kids still talk to you?
Do they still like you? They still call you dad?
You know what? It was actually kind of fun in the beginning. And now everybody is quite back, because we spent Christmas down there, right? So everybody's going to remember, oh, that was the Christmas we spent in the basement, which was... Dad
forced us down the base. He was too cheap to get another rental.
yeah. So, well, definitely not. And definitely not for 30 days. But yeah, it was fun.
Just to give one more thought on the first-time home buyers, it used to be like standard practice. I would take a call with a new buyer, and if they were looking in downtown Toronto, they go, my budget's $650, or it was $550. but it was never lower than 500 because there was nothing that they'd want to buy that fell in that zone. Now we're taking calls and people are like, my budget's 450. Can I get anything? I'm like, actually, yeah, you can.
Yeah.
And you know what? It's not shit. It's like,
Yeah.
it's actually pretty good. This was the 550 place. And so I found that to be fairly encouraging with when, you know, we're doing these intake calls for these new buyers when they're saying their budgets. And like, you know, 2 years ago, it's like, well, you're not going to get a parking spot. You're not going to get over 500 square feet. And now it's like, actually, that exists.
You know what?
And good locations too, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
You're in King Street, you're in Liberty Village.
Yeah.
Like you've got good spots that are like exciting to be in. It's not like, you know, you're, I don't know, getting a 500 square foot in North Oakville that there's nothing to do. Like you're in really good locations where you can hop on the TTC and head to a Raptors game or something like that. Like
it's not just like that one shitty condo building everyone knows is bad and and always had the lowest prices. Right? Like, yeah, whatever the version is, there's many of them, right? But it's like,
you know what?
we just did one in Liberty Village under, I think it was over 600 square feet. We got it under $500,000. It was a 1+10. It was nice.
That's awesome.
And I'm like, damn, this is like, it's just cool to see that this exists again for options for our clients because it didn't for a long time.
Even just a guy who's single, right, or a girl who's single, and you know they're just like, I want to get into the market. There's an opportunity there, which is exciting.
Tom, this whole thing just took my mind back to the market when I first started and my first 5 or 6 years, and for that period of time. It was like I could look at a house. If it was a bungalow, it was worth $380 to $400. If it was a basement home with 3 beds up, it was worth $525. Like you could, within $10,000, you could pick the price.
Right.
At that time, and this has kind of gone away now, but at that time, every single phone call was like, if I know a place is worth $400 and the detached market was $380 to $400. Every single person that phones me limit was $350.
Always
and it
a
was
little
just
bit
like,
lower.
Always, I want to buy a house at this, and it was always low. Now it was nice back then because the market was so flat for like 4, 5, 6 years that you could say, that's with confidence, you are not going to find what you're looking for at that price. So we have to switch, or usually they would figure out a way to try and get the extra and get into what they wanted, right? Or they just didn't want to admit that, they needed to spend the extra and they could. But it was always that thing of like, every lead I got in 2013, maybe even a little bit before that, 2011, was like, I want to buy a bungalow in North Surrey. I can spend, and I want to get it for $350. And I was like, they're $380 baseline. So I don't know. Anyways, it just popped into my brain when you guys are saying that. It's like, oh yeah. Cause now when I do meet with people, it's like, oh yeah, no, you have a budget. You might, we might have to work on exactly your area or what you want to get, but yeah, that's a workable budget. And you're right. In 2022, you were like, can you spend $100,000 more than you thought you were going to spend?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And people were happy to do it, which was crazy.
Yeah.
Are you finding that at all, Cortez? Like first time buyers are kind of, maybe not surprised is the wrong word, but like, oh, that actually exists now. That's kind of nice.
Yeah, I think we're like the first time buyer likes to work with me is that, and I think if you're an agent listening to this, you should like take this on. I'm sure you guys do it as well. Like tell them what you would do. Like agents just kind of like wait for their clients to like I say, let's start, there's no one else there. I had a place in Oakville. I'm like, let's start here. We're going to get a sign back here. This is going to go back 3 or 4 days. But if you want the best price, this is what I do. And 9 times out of 10, they listen to you and they really respect you for that. I think that there's just been a lot of like coasting in previous markets where you just go to your max and it's just, there wasn't much value. And I think that if you want to make money today, like you have to be what's going on in the economy, what's going on in real estate, what did that house sell for down the road? And then just telling your clients what they should do is, especially sellers, like telling them, last year I never lost so many listings in my life, but I look at them and they're all expired. They're all terminated. None of them sold.
You never save so much money on marketing.
I never saved. Exactly. So I think like just being honest and having people respect what you have to say and really, being what realtors were, because people are busy. Like people are working 8-10 hours a day. They've got kids. Like they want to be told what to do. I just think of it like if I hired a mortgage agent, I want them to tell me in their best opinion, or a lawyer, what should I do? Like I'm hiring you, what should I do? Not like leave it on me to do the research and make the decision. So that's really where I think if you're a realtor listening to this, you can do really well in this market. And then ask people for referrals. That's what I do. Repeat referral and try and put yourself out there.
Nothing is going to beat real market knowledge, like understanding what's going on, and not just like the reports come out and you can, read off the months of inventory and average sale price. It's like micro market trends that you're seeing. We've helped so many people because we get this unique perspective between working with a ton of buyers and working with a ton of sellers in the same like area, and being able to share, like, I had an offer on something recently and my seller wasn't overly thrilled with it. And I'm like, you don't have to do anything, but just so you know, I've got 5 other people over here that are begging for something like this. So like, you don't love it, but it's way better than a lot of other situations. And like, if that's the only piece of business I'm doing, I wouldn't have known that. But having these conversations and understanding, like we talk about this a lot on the show, but like ground level perspective does make a difference. All the stats are amazing and I really like it. Being able to give people advice because you've done it a bunch of times and you're active, like we're in the trenches. I do think there's a huge value add there that you can't get if you're just living in a spreadsheet and reading the numbers and not being down there in the trenches with buyers and sellers.
That's why I go to the office every day. I'm not there today because I knew I had this podcast to do, but I go every day because I want to know what's going on in their listings. Like I want to know what other agents are doing. And the guys who run my brokerage, they do really well and they sell a lot of business. And it's just invaluable to hear these stories that you can then reiterate to clients. And then those clients respect what you have to say. Like, you told them the truth, Tom, and that's what they need to hear. And, when people say, I'm going to wait, I always say, do you think it's going to get better? And then it's just kind of this silence and they go, yeah, probably not. And then they come around to selling today versus another time in the future. But
one thing I've been doing recently is, and if you're a client of mine listening to this, you've probably heard it from me. If you're a seller and we get an offer coming in and the offer's crap, I'll tell you it's crap. And I always preface it this way. I say, listen, guys, this, we're going to have to work with this offer. We're not going to reject it. That would be stupid in a market like this to reject an offer. We're going to counter the offer. We're going to work with it. It's no good right now. We got to get it to where it needs to be. There's some massaging that needs done. There's some negotiations that need done. But I'm going to tell you this right now. If and when I get this offer to market value, you're going to hear my tone change really quickly. And I'm going to tell you when we've hit market value. Now, when we do hit market value, it's up to you whether or not you want to accept it. I'll support you in anything you do. 100% I'll support you. However, it would be, you want to call it malpractice of mine to not tell you when the best deal is on the table, and then it's up to you to accept it. And then at that point, most people go, okay, I understand. It gives them the power to say yes or no to a deal. But I would be silly, and I think a lot of agents, this is where they're getting stuck. They're trying to get the better deal that their client wants. That's not our job. Our job is to get market value and put the transaction together. That's our job. Trust me, I want $10 million for my house. Not going to get it, right? So if somebody comes to me and says, this is where it's actually at, if you want to move forward, I think you can respect that a lot more. So that's awesome. That's the situation that we're in right now.
Yeah. I learned a very good lesson last year, is that there's being blunt with people, right? There's telling them the truth. And when you're in a market where everything's negative, you almost want to go in and be like, I can tell you a lot of things today, but this is the price you need to be at to successfully sell your property. It doesn't work. Like you still have to massage. I learned my lesson on a few seller meetings where I went in, I said, guys, this is what you need to do. And I will do everything possible to get your property sold. But if you're going to sell, this is the price. And of course they end up selling for that price, but it takes them 4 months with somebody else. And I realized pretty quickly, you can still be direct with people, but you still got to give them a little shoulder rub and just like get them there in a nice way. Because what I realized is when I was kind of in my own head about it and being like, I'm just going to go in and give them the information and they can make a decision. If it's not marketed correctly and you're not giving them a little bit more, people are like, well, I'm going to go with someone else because their marketing plan. I'm like, tell me exactly what the difference is here. Like, where I know it's nothing.
It's price.
Of course it's price, right? It's like, well, they said a higher price. I was like, all right. And then you're going to end up selling for what I said, but it doesn't matter. So that's something I'll continue to take with me in these type of markets is like, there's being blunt and direct. And even if you're 100% correct, you still got to give people a little bit of the walk around and massage them a little bit to get them to that point. Cortez, I want to wrap with one final thing. I don't know if you've seen this yet. Very lucky here in the city of Toronto. Not only did our luxury tax go up, which I thought was happening instead of raising our regular property taxes, apparently not. So property taxes are going up again in the city of Toronto, only 2.2%, which is kind of like how inflation works. When last year it was 8% and the year before that it was 8%. It's like, well, it's only 2.2%.
It's only 2. We're doing you a favor.
Property tax increases are going down, but it continues to go up. And I don't know, like the city of Toronto has like $1 billion shortfall right now with their budget. And I don't know how this is going to make a difference. I don't even know if I have a question for you. I just want to make the announcement that property taxes are going up again. And Olivia's our mayor for now, at least till October when the election happens. And I think if she stays in that seat, property taxes will continue to go up every single year.
She's a grifter. She pretends like she's going to help all these people and it never happens. She spends too much money and debt is terrible. And I interviewed Brad Bradford on my podcast a few weeks ago, who's running against her. And even you look at the polling and she's still doing really well. And it just really opens your eyes to, wow, people really don't know how bad she's running the city. And taxing people more and giving the government more money is not.
I wonder how many daycares she owns.
They don't have an income problem. They have a spending problem.
Tom, did you want to touch on the deals per agent thing, or?
Oh yeah. Well, I don't know. This happens at the beginning of every year.
You
Cortez.
have like a minute.
Hold on.
Do you have an extra minute or two?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay, so I'll bring this up on the screen.
An hour and a half, just in case.
I
put
don't
it over
want
my face.
Yeah, no, I don't want to put it over Cortez. Hold on. I'll put it right here just so people can kind of see it.
I'm going to superimpose it over this. Let me make a note here.
This comes out every year, and then every realtor posts about it. And I wanted to bring it up, not to say, hey, look, me and Cortez and Steve are in that top category, and we actually sell a lot of properties, even though that is the truth. The thing is the number that's going to get reported on the most is like, what does that even say? I can't even see it. 37,000 the people with a real estate license did 0 transactions last year.
50%.
So
wow,
that is
terrible.
50%. Now, as it kind of says in small print below there, my team included in all the top teams, most of the sales go under one agent's name. That's just like, that's how it works. So it is skewed.
Some of your agents would do 0 because it all goes
on paper. On paper.
But they don't actually do 0. Yeah.
No, and some of the biggest teams have 100 agents, but it only goes under one person's name. So it's not as bad as it seems. I have a licensed assistant that doesn't trade in real estate, but has a license. They fall into that category. Appraisers, there's lots of real estate agents that don't give up their license, that fade off into the sunset and maybe do 1 or 2 transactions a year instead of like announcing a full retirement. But people are always kind of interested in this. And this is the breakdown where only 32 realtors, these are really big teams anyways, they're not just one person, did over 100 transactions, which was the 0.05%. But if you take a look, if you did 5 to 9 sales, you'd be in the top 7.4% of realtors in the GTA. Kind of interesting. Like, just does show that even with all the things I've said, still a very small percentage of us are trading most of the real estate. And there's a lot of people with licenses not doing much right now.
You know what? But if you do 9 deals in the GTA, if you have a decent price point,
decent living.
You could make a living. Yeah, you could make a living.
Honestly, an independent agent, like, I've had conversations with all these like big mega team people, and sometimes afterwards I'm like, is it worth taking on that amount of risk to make that profit margin when you could just be on your own, sell 10, 15 homes a year and run a great profitable business. But ego builds into that, right? So
I do about,
That's
15 plus deals a year. And I work for myself. I don't have any team.
Yeah.
My margins are incredible. I worked on big teams. I know that their margins suck. I know that they spend 20, 30, 40 grand a month on advertising just so they can say they're in the top 1% of the Toronto Real Estate Board. And the way that I market myself big time is that, small teams I think have value, but the big teams I market myself as, you're going to hire the big guy, the big name, and you're never going to hear from them once. They're going to put a junior agent with you, and you're probably not going to enjoy your experience. And I do get a lot of business that way, is by
being the opposite,
only working with a handful of people, because I saw the team process. I didn't want people calling me about deals. I didn't think that the risk reward was worth it. I know you guys do it, so I'm not trying to shame you.
Yeah, but we're not huge. Like, we're medium, small size teams. We're not these mega things.
Something you can handle. Yeah, exactly. So like I said, if you can do 15 plus deals and you have
pretty good business,
your overhead is not a lot. Like my brokerage takes on a lot of expenses. They pay for my photos and floor plans and everything like that. It's all included in my split, all my gifts and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can have a great business. So,
Steve, what your market puts out stuff like this too, right? Do you have any intel on what's going on over there?
We don't get a report as interesting as this one, where it says only less than 3% of the agents do 10 or more deals per year. That's insane. That's what the numbers are showing me right here while I'm looking at it. So I want to know, is the median, not the average sales per agent, but is the median sales per agent 1 or 0?
Well, it's tough, because if half do 0, then maybe the median number is actually 0, depending on if that's how it works, right? Like, the middle number could be technically 0. Yeah.
It would be better to know the sales volume. That would be better to know. How much sales volume are you doing, right?
Yeah, that exists. Like, Brokerage have access to a program.
If you're doing 20 million and you're selling 12 homes a year, you make a lot. You make a doctor salary. Yeah. So maybe
that's a high price point market, right?
Well, I don't have to worry about that problem.
Well, Cortez, this was fun, man. I always appreciate you having you on the show. Hopefully you enjoyed it today. Hopefully the audience did. I'm sure that they did. Your podcast, I know you and Brooke are being a bit more consistent with it this year. Is there a day of the week you release now, or is it still kind of like surprise?
So it's usually Wednesdays.
Okay.
I'm always trying to be there as much as I can. Brooke Brooke is Brooke. She's she's a high performing agent. She runs a team, so there's sometimes things get in the way with her to give her her credit and everything like that. But yeah, our goal this year is to post every Thursday, and then our Instagram and TikTok and YouTube Shorts really is where we do pull in a lot of views. But yeah, follow us there if you like some of my takes, and I hope your audience found me interesting. Sometimes I don't know until
this was a great conversation. This was awesome. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Thank you for listening, and we will see you next week. Bye.